This is Chapter 10 review. Very important to know these things here so you can do well on the test. Number 1, cube root of 27, c to the 9th. You take the cube root of each of them. Cube root of 27 is 3. Cube root, remember, on c to the 9th you divide 9 by 3, c cubed. Next one, square root of 64, x to the 10th. Square root of 64, square root of x to the 10th. Same thing. Number 3a, 25 to the 1/2 means square root of 25, which equals 5. b, negative 64 to the negative 4/3. First thing you do is get rid of the negative exponent. Move it down to the denominator. Then you take the denominator of the fraction, the cube root of negative 64 is negative 4, then negative 4 to the 5th. Square root of 60 you break down as 4 and 15 because the square root of 4 is 2 and square root of 15. Okay, then I turned around. Here's number 5, which would be next. I got them out of order. Square root of 27, x to the 5th. Break down the square root of 27, 9 and 3. You find something that you can take the square root of that goes into 27. The x to the 5th. You can't divide 2 into 5 evenly, so you break it down to 4 and 1 as I've done here. So you get 3 square root of 3, x squared, and square root of x. So 3x squared, square root of 3x. Then 6a, all of these things lined up here, 4 square root of 7 and 5 square root of 7 are like 9 square root of 7. Negative 6 cube root of 13 and negative 7 cube root of 13 make negative 13 cube root of 13. Then you really need to go through and follow the steps on 6b here. Important question there. I tried to put all the breaking down that you need there. Follow through on that. Number 7, FOIL. You need to multiply that together by FOIL. Okay, as shown there. Number 8, you divide right away. First thing you do when you have radicals over radicals, divide if you can. Gives you square root of 4, which is 2. First thing you do is divide. Number 9. Yeah, you would divide there if they could, but 5 won't go into 2, so it's square root of 2 over square root of 5. Then you multiply by the square root of 5 over square root of 5. Get square root of 10 over square root of 25. Square root of 10 over 5. Number 10, we've got a fraction with 2 terms in the denominator that has a radical. So we multiply by the conjugate on top and bottom. So we end up using FOIL on top, FOIL on bottom, and the steps are shown here of what happens. Number 11, square root of x minus 7 equals 7. Our x that we're solving for is inside a radical, so we square both sides to get rid of the radical. And as we've done here, remember to check these. Number 12, square root of negative 56 is a square root of negative 1. First thing when you have a square root of a negative number, take out the square root of negative 1. That's not a real number, but we put an I in for that square root of negative 1. Then the 56, 4 goes into it 14 times, so the square root of 4 is 2, 2i square root of 14. Then number 13 is subtracting imaginary numbers here. We change the signs in this second parentheses because of the minus in front, as shown over here. 14a, 2 over 5i. That I is a radical. Remember, is a square root of negative 1. So we come back and multiply by I over I. We get 2i over 5i squared. And then if you have an I squared, you put negative 1 in for the I squared, giving us negative 5. 2i over negative 5. B, we have an I in the denominator again, but we have 2 terms. 2 plus 3i, 2 terms. So we multiply by the conjugate on top and bottom, 2 minus 3i over 2 minus 3i. And then on top we distribute, and on the bottom we use FOIL, and the middle two terms cancel out. And remember, you have minus 9i squared again. I squared is negative 1, so that makes plus 9. So 6 minus 9i over 13. 15a, multiply these two together. They're right next to each other with FOIL, as I've done there. And remembering, I squared is negative 1. Follow through the work there. B, I to the 13th. Well, whenever we have I with powers greater than 1, we put I squared in as many times as we can. I squared 6 times gives you I to the 12th, and that leaves us an I left over. Every time you put in an I squared, it's negative 1. So negative 1 to the 6th is positive 1 I left there. Then 16 and 17, you have two ordered pairs on both of them. On 16, you're asked to find the distance formula, so you put them right in this formula here and work it out as I've done. Number 17, you have two ordered pairs. You're asked to find the midpoint. There's the midpoint formula, and there's what we get on that one. Okay, very important for